I always thought throughout all of my 20s, I thought that I had depression. I was just adamant that this low mood, once every 2 to 3 months, I would be kind of bedridden with existential dread for 2 or 3 days, and then I'd get back out of it. And I just thought that was me. I thought that was my demeanor. I have like a little bit of a history of depression further up in my family. It's pretty heritable. Mm-hmm. And then I realized when the pandemic happened, that was the first time in my entire adult life that I had a stable sleep and wake pattern ever. From the age of 18, I'd never gone to bed at the same time every single night for longer than like 6 days. Right, because I was a club promoter and I was very good. What I did with the company that I ran was very successful, but you've got to pay the price. And the price is being awake until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, 2, 3, 4 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And the byproduct of that was suboptimal sleep, suboptimal mood. And then because of when you work really, really hard at this, I was having what I didn't realize at the time, but turned out to just be like burnout. I was getting burned out and having a miniature little breakdown. And I would feel guilty. The really strange thing about it was that I would feel guilty about feeling sad and not being able to get out of bed because ostensibly there wasn't anything wrong. Mm. There wasn't I remember I went to my GP in the NHS and I said, I think I might be depressed. I was maybe 24. It took a good bit of, courage for me to go and say that to some woman, doctor, lady. The male denial of mental health problems is pretty fucking strong. Yeah. And, I went and I spoke to this lady and she said, what's going on in your life? I said, nothing. Like, I run a successful business. I'm just finishing my 2nd degree. I don't have any money worries. I don't have any relationship worries. And she says, well, what about this? What about this? Is there a problem with your family, with your finances, with your blah, blah? And I was like, no. And she said, oh, I don't really know. There's not really much that we can do. There's a 1-page printout about how mental health works, like toddle on. And the long story short is that I was struggling with working out who I was toward the end of my 20s, having achieved a life of renown and whatever, like status and success in a way that modern society might tell a young man that he's supposed to achieve it, with accolades and like transactional relationships with people and women and stuff like that. But I didn't find it fulfilling and I couldn't work out why. And at the beginning of the podcast, that was one of the reasons why a lot of the conversations, if people go back and listen to any of the early episodes, a lot of them are around mental health. A lot of them are around like just really trying to understand me. Why am I struggling to connect in this way? Why am I struggling to feel so good about myself? And that's grown over time now, the last 18 months or so, especially since I moved to Austin. Dude, I feel it's a different person. Like my demeanor is different. The texture of my mind is different. And this isn't just from changing my sleep. It's 1,000 hours plus of meditation. It's reading, it's training, it's more sunlight, it's better friends, it's more friends, it's a job that I existentially care about, but all the way down. But, to anybody that feels like they've got lock-in with the way that their nature exists, like I couldn't be more different. The inner texture of the way that I feel couldn't be more different than it was only 7 years ago. And from the outside, 7 years ago, coming off the first season of Love Island with the director of one of the biggest events companies in the UK, it would have looked like, well, what have you got to complain about? And there was so much headroom for me to improve.
My wife's got a lot of questions about Love Island, but before we get on with that, you also practiced 1,000 days of removing alcohol. I'm a fan of like a cascade of disciplines, like things cascade downward from something. In this case, maybe you were cascading in like a negative fashion, staying up late, not getting enough sleep, drinking alcohol. What do you think was the overarching thing that was causing like X, Y, and Z, and then making you believe that you may have been depressed?
So it wasn't the alcohol. That wasn't really a problem for me. I never had any dependence on it. I think it was a combination. The bad sleep was such a fundamental contributor to it, and I didn't realize. The World Health Organization considers any type of shift work as a health risk now. So if you're a nurse, if you are a gas station worker, if you're a firefighter that works shifts or a police officer or anybody, that's a health risk. And I just saw it as life. So that was a big part of it. The sobriety I actually did as I was coming out the back of being the sort of big name on campus club promoter guy. And I wanted to make all of these changes. And the problem was I didn't have enough time or energy or consistency to be able to focus on making real change. Everybody knows how hard it is to stick to a diet or a new meditation habit or a new year's resolution. And then you add a hangover on top of that. It's basically impossible. Like, it's an insurmountable task. So what I was doing was I was doing all this good work for maybe 13 days. And then on day 14, there would be a good party on. So I'd go out and I'd party, and then I'd come back and I'd be hungover. And that was just, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back is for a lot of people, especially in the UK where there is a big drinking culture, that's 30s, 40s, 50s, and that's still the way that they live. And they're like, why am I not making any progress? It's like, dude, because you shake the Etch-a-Sketch of self-development every fortnight, and you have done for decades now. So by cutting it out, I did 6 months sober, then came back to drinking for a little bit, didn't really enjoy it, did another 6 months, came back to drinking for like a month and a half, didn't really enjoy it, said, right, fuck it, I'm just going to do 1,000 days and see what happens. And that was the catalyst to a lot of my personal development. Not that alcohol was getting in the way, but that by removing it, it opened up 1 day out of every 14, and it gave me all of the consistency to actually compound. So it's a huge competitive advantage for any young guy who is in their 20s that is wondering why they're not making the progress that they should. They're a conscientious, motivated individual, but they still like to send it every couple of weeks. Take that out for 6 months and your life will change drastically.
Yeah. You drink it all now?
Very rarely, like maybe once a month. I don't mind if I fly back home to the UK and the air hostess comes out with a glass of champagne or whatever. Would you like a champagne, Mr. Williamson? I'm like, yeah, I would like a champagne, actually. Thank you. That's cool. But I haven't, I think once in all of 2022, I had a proper send. Me and Zach went to a DJ set that one of my friends from the UK was playing over in Austin. And that was it. So that was one time that we went properly hard. So I had one hangover in all of 2022. And I'm such a lightweight as well now. So it reset my tolerance too for alcohol, which was great. It's also made me, and this is something that I need to speak to maybe a dietitian about, very intolerant of alcohol digestively. As soon as I get onto spirits for more than 2 or 3 drinks, I get such bad discomfort.
And spirits are specifically what type of alcohol?
Gin.
Gin
Okay. For me.
Okay. I'm curious about this, man.